Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Good afternoon, beer geeks. Welcome back to Friday 5pm. Did you miss us? Did you miss me, Brad?
Mate, I've missed you so much to the level that if you weren't a married man, it would be inappropriate.
Oh God, I'm a married man.
You are a married man. Congratulations, dude. What a fucking amazing little bit of time we're having, eh? Well, you and your lovely wife now. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was lovely to have some positivity in 2020, and we were very lucky to have a beautiful wedding and a equally beautiful honeymoon. In which I managed to not spend most of my time just answering comments on YouTube, which is how most of my life is spent these days. So it was nice to have a break from that. I apologise to anybody still waiting for a reply. I will get to you all several thousand of you over the last 10 days.
Oh, God.
But that's good.
Yes,
it's been
man.
exciting watching so many, now that we've doubled the amount of views we get over lockdown, and now there's more than double the comments. And we've also slightly tapped into, I think, because we've gone outside of the very lovely beer bubble, which is full of lovely people who are just interested in great beer and know us and enjoy the conversations. We've definitely tapped into a little vein, a little mine of trolls. So
we've hit a vein of trolls, Johnny.
We have
in our exploration into the deepest, darkest depths.
They have a cave troll.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
But hey,
do you want to name and shame trolls, or you don't feed the trolls though, do you? That's the point. You never feed the trolls.
Never. Well, I enjoy feeding the trolls because sometimes it's a bit like.
I know
bots.
you do, mate.
It's a bit like bots, where sometimes they're not actually bots; they're real people who are just they're just misunderstood,
robotic.
Brad.
Okay.
And
right.
so I always check if they're a real troll or if they really just don't understand or don't like us. And sometimes I've won round some trolls, They put their clubs down and we've got engaged in a nice conversation. It's rare, but it does happen. So I always enjoy it.
Yeah, you're right, man. It's good to be positive about these things. I would probably shy away from any troll activity or going near them because I'd be worried about getting my feelings hurt. But you're right. If you can change someone's mind and make them a more positive outlook on what we're trying to do, or the sort of industry and the scene in general, then more power to you, mate.
Absolutely, more power to the people. So yeah, I will get to your comments, whether you're a troll or a human. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you, Brad. It's been a long week. It's the longest I think we've gone without producing content for quite a while. So I felt had a little bit of withdrawal, I think.
Did you? Did you go into shock? You were like, this is what normal life's like.
Yeah, if by shock you mean just lounging on a beach, doing a bit of surfing, visiting vineyards and breweries, then yeah, I was in total shock.
Amazing. Surfing, you say?
Surfing, yeah.
Whoa. Are you a good surfer, Johnny?
No. I'm at the point where I'm just about to graduate away from the foam surfboards, which anybody who's,
Oh, the big ones, yeah.
They're much more buoyant than the fiberglass ones. So I can now, reliably get up, be stood up, and start turning and going down the waves and stuff on a foam one. I've had 2 sessions on a fiberglass, and that has not been the case. Mostly just wiping out and drinking seawater. So because it was the honeymoon, I wanted to feel good. I just went with the foam boards for the session and just enjoyed myself, because everyone assumes you're a beginner, and then when you stand up straight away, people are like, ooh.
Ooh, he's a natural.
Yeah.
He's a prodigy.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, it's my first time. It's totally my first time, guys.
Is it something like riding a bike where once you've got the knack for it, you'll never forget it? Do you think you could leave it for years and then still be able to stand up on all those foam bad boys?
I don't think it's quite like riding a bike. It's like you pick it up pretty quickly, but the first couple of wipeouts always happen, which when you're surfing is okay. The landing's relatively soft. With a bike, that would be a bit of an issue if every time you picked up a bike again, you crashed a couple of times. So yeah, not quite like riding a bike.
No, one of my worst sporting experiences ever, and I'm not a sporty guy, but I quite like outdoor pursuits, and me and my poor student friends went on a glamorous snowboarding holiday to Borovets, which is in Bulgaria. It was very, very cheap, Johnny. And I'd never been snowboarding before, but I assumed, I can ski. I've skied on a dry ski slope. How hard can it be?
Well, your legs are welded together, basically. Surely
I was like, I mean, I can't skateboard, so why I thought I'd be able to snowboard, but everyone else was snowboarding, you see, Johnny, and they all knew how to do it. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do skiing. I don't want to be the lame guy that does skiing. So I ponied up the money for the holiday. And they were like, Brad, maybe you should have some lessons. I was like, no way. I'm going to go straight out there. I'm going to smash it.
Smash your bones?
Well, yeah, pretty much. So we went to Borovets, which was quite strange. Maybe it's quite lovely now. I don't know. But it was very much one of the lower end ski resorts, I would say.
Right. An up and coming location.
There wasn't even much snow to be talking about. It was like gravel. When you fell over, it would like tear your face off. And when you got to the bottom of the slope, it was just mud. And no word of a lie, they actually had horse carts that would take you around if you wanted to go on a horse cart back up. It was quite old fashioned, and this is not even that long ago. Anyway,
did you travel to both Bulgaria and the past?
Yeah,
horse carts. The poor horses just going up and down hills all day.
Yeah,
with
really
drunken
weird.
British cheapskates in the back.
It was odd. It was an odd holiday. It was an odd resort. I think there was only one bar, and it was like almost like a strip bar.
Oh my God.
When we went in, it was a very, very narrow staircase, and you had to go past these real heavy-looking dudes, and they locked the door behind you when you went in.
Oh my God! No.
So we only went there one night, and it was kind of terrifying. We left pretty much straight away. The only other bar I can remember was buy one get two free on the drinks. Buy one get two free. So we'd ended up in a sort of Magaluf style snowboarding resort. It didn't go well for me, Johnny. I barrel rolled down a hill, and I nearly split myself in half because I had this sort of solid backpack on that was a hard shell backpack. I don't know why I thought it was cool at the time, but it's hard to explain. It was almost made out of like a motorcycle helmet material, and I had that strapped to my back so hard that when I flipped down the hill, I thought I couldn't go floppy, and instead my whole body just got mullered by like barreling down.
Why did you have a backpack on anyway?
I had beer in it and water and
oh my days
stuff. I mean, like I didn't know what I was doing, mate. I could have died. And I drew a crowd when I'd finally finished rolling down this hill. I was totally winded. I think I'd knocked myself out for a second. And I had a whole crowd of people around me that were just amazed that I was alive. And as soon as I came to, my whole face just felt like it was on fire because I just gravelled it off on this sort of icy snow. So anyway, I don't know how we've got onto that from surfing, but I
don't think the people listening really remember when this podcast started, to be honest. Like, that was an epic story. It's not the only
dude.
story we have of near death of Brad, but we'll save them for other occasions. You'll be pleased to know that when the craft beer channel are on the road, it's relatively safe.
I think you definitely have a way of calming down my situations that I find myself in. So we've never. I take that back. We've had one where I thought we were going to die, but I kind of don't want to talk about it.
I forgot that I was turning left, not right. And, that was bad. That was bad. We've all been there, though, when you're driving on the wrong side of the road. You're like,
oh, dude.
I forgot which way is up and down, let alone left and right.
That was bad. I thought we were going to die. But anyway, we did die. Yay! It was awesome. Yay!
I don't know what we've been storing up over the last 2 weeks, but I didn't expect the podcast to go this way. Let's rein it in. Let's bring it back to beer.
Okay,
we're a beer podcast. We're a beer podcast.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I forgot that.
We haven't had an upload for 2 weeks now, which is shocking.
Whoa.
So the last video that we actually did was still our homebrew exploration on New England IPA homebrewing with the new Lallemand Verdant dry yeast. Which
amazing.
Still continues to get loads and loads of views and loads of comments. We've had quite a few people messages, either privately or publicly, saying that they've brewed with the yeast and they love it. I've had 2 or 3 people say they used our recipe, which you can get on our website at a link in the descriptions box, and indeed on Brewer's Friend now. I've put that public. And we've had, lots of people saying, lots of people are struggling to get hold of Brew One, which is a shame, because that's kind of what sets our recipe apart along with the yeast. But somebody brewed, just subbed in Simcoe, which would be perfectly tasty. And they're really proud of it. And it seems to be a really great recipe we've come up with there.
Yeah, man. I think, going from what ours tasted like, I was just shocked. I was in awe. Shock and awe, mate. Unreal stuff.
Yeah, it was a proper sort of double take moment, a bit like the car scale as well, where we'll have to see if it's like beginner's luck, because these are the 2 most involved brews that I've ever done, and I've decided to film them as well. Maybe I'm just riding my luck, and we'll have to see the next homebrew video that we do if we nail it again. We're not entirely sure what that video will be, but I've got some ideas that I need to talk to you about, Brad. But yeah, we'll save that for when we know. Diving into the comments on that video, we've also had lots of love for the three bucket rule, which is in episode 1, where we talk about how to create your hop schedule. And lots of people have had their minds blown, like we did at Trogs when they explained it to us, about how when you're putting together a hop schedule, you want that baseline hop that's going to give you most of the flavour. You want to fill in the gaps that hop's missing with the next one, and then you want to add some top notes with the final one. And Ashley Bartlett commented, saying he considers himself an experienced home brewer and he's always learning. It's fantastic to hear about the 3 hop buckets, and he'll be using that for his next New England IPA. So, it seems to be a really new approach, and I think some breweries could do with learning from that, let alone some home brewers. It's a really kind of game-changing approach to how you select your hops.
Definitely. I think, that kind of making a symphony, or I think before I said about it being an orchestra, but the more I think about it, it's more like a funk band, right? Because you've got the funky bass line.
For the listeners at home, I briefed Brad saying, you've talked about the orchestra a lot, so we need to move this on. I thought you'd move it on further than a funk band, but carry on.
No, funk band. So you got funky bass lines, you got your rhythm section, you got your high-end Bee Gees style vocal that's singing. You could do a Bee Gees style falsetto. Go on, go for it. Staying alive. So what's that? That's the pineapple kind of like crazy singing.
That's the pineapple line, yeah.
That's the pineapple,
and then are you going to give me a little mosaic line?
I'm a funky guy.
We're going to be dropping down the rankings, aren't we, with this podcast? Jesus. But
I've missed you,
it is
mate.
like a funk band.
It's a funk band.
Yeah.
And I like it because hops are funky as well, right? They can be funky.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I've missed this too, Bradders. Speaking of weird things, you'd found an enjoyably weird comment, hadn't you?
I have. I don't know if we've gone so weird, and now I'm a bit hesitant to go down this weird comment.
Do it.
But I will do anyway. This is from a guy called Levent77. And he says, "Hi, John." I mean, your name's Johnny, it's not John. "Hi,
No,
John."
only my dad calls me John when I've done something very wrong.
And it's very formal. "Hi, John." Very wrong, John. "Hi, John. When I saw your smile on your face the first time you smelled your beer on the couch, a phrase I once heard from a German comedian came into my mind. If he wouldn't have ears, his lips would touch at the back of his head. That smile just explained all the taste. Ha ha ha." So we were speculating that this if he didn't have ears, then his lips would touch at the back of his head. So you said that your ears are stopping your smile from going all the way round to the back of your head.
Yeah, he thinks that's the only thing
Which is
stopping
actually a
it.
lovely
Not the
comment.
6 inches of cheek in between the two.
Not the 6 inches of cheek, it's the ears. They're the hard stop.
Well, then I've got to thank my ears. Weird fact about my ears. I can only wear child-sized caps because my ears are so high on my head that if I put an adult-sized baseball cap on, my ears get pushed down and I look like a gnome.
No.
No.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but I still don't believe it. I think it's nonsense.
I think you're the wrong person for me to have this conversation with because your head is so massive.
I've got a massive head, yeah. It's an unbelievably large head.
Yeah.
I'm like sort of Tom Cruise or something, and I reckon he's got... You know, they say like a lot of movie stars have got big heads, and they're short.
Do they
they've
say
got like
that?
a big head. Yeah, they do. Apparently they do. Yeah.
I've never heard that.
They're short and they've got a big
to
head.
you.
It photographs well on camera, apparently.
Right.
If you're a movie star, you have a big face and a small body. There you go. I've got nothing else to add.
That seems so weird that to be famous with your face, you have to have a big face.
Big face, like a moon face. Yeah, definitely.
Well, there you go.
I'm trying to think of famous moon faces. You've got Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
Yeah, but she's not a movie star.
No, she's not a movie star. I reckon a lot of movie stars have got big faces.
Minnie Driver has a big face.
Minnie Driver, she's got a massive face. You could park a motorbike on that.
Yeah. Thank God she's got ears because that would be a huge mouth as well.
And for someone called Minnie Driver to have such a huge face, I find that she's very attractive. I'm not putting it down. I like
and very
a moon
talented,
face, mate.
Bradley.
Very talented.
She is incredible
in
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, I love what's it called? Grosse Pointe Blank, which is a John Cusack movie where he's a hitman and she's the love interest in it, who's really cool. And there's great music in it, and it's very 90s. It's awesome. Check it out, guys.
I think she's a musician as well. I think she's released an album recently.
Really?
I'm going to have to go check that out because I feel like she'll do some really cool, like, heartfelt country folk kind of stuff, which is very much my thing.
Interesting. She reminds me of Tori Amos a bit,
right?
Looks-wise.
Yeah.
Who is an artist, and I reckon Tori Amos has probably got a big face as well.
I like that this is your measure of a person. Now they can't be talented. They've got a very small face.
Yeah, I've got a bit weird.
Back to beer.
I've gone weird in isolation. Back to beer. So anyway, yeah, giant smiles. I tell you what we could do, Johnny. I don't know if we're there yet. Are we there yet for our recorded section?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, definitely. I think we need somebody else external to ground this podcast. So yeah, we've been asking you guys to send in recorded questions to the podcast so that we can get some more voices on here, which is becoming abundantly clear this podcast needs. And we have finally had some questions come in, which is very, very exciting. So we're going to take a question from one of you right now. And that person is Joseph Hunter. And he has a very in-depth question, which I've even done some historical research to answer. So let's see what Joseph had to say, and then we'll meet you in a sec.
Hi, Brad and Johnny. Since you called out for voice questions, I thought I would ask something I've been wondering about for a while. I've been wanting to homebrew a lager, but without temperature control in the house. I've been eyeing up the idea of putting the beer outside in my garden over winter and lagering it outdoors. I live in Manchester, so it gets quite cold at night from December onwards. I was wondering if you could see any pitfalls to doing that, or if you had any tips. Thank you.
Oh, blimey, what was that?
Oh,
That was Home Q by Doug Maxwell about to come on. Apparently I've downloaded that from the YouTube audio library.
oh wow.
I'm
Awesome.
intrigued, but I'm going to listen to that afterwards. I like a bit of panpipe.
Great stuff.
So, thank you for the question, Joseph. We've got a question for next week, but please, guys, do send in your questions because that's where we want to take this podcast. We want to be a bit more open, a bit more involved with you guys. And that was a really great question there from Joseph. Brad, I'm going to go to you first. What would you advise Joseph to do?
I've got a great tip for you, Joseph. Don't use an open fermenter.
I think, given that he's very concerned about his temperature control, I think he's already considered putting a lid on it.
Yeah, because you don't want to get any slug guys or wiggly worms getting involved in your fermenting there. But apart from that, I think it's a pretty sound idea. What I was thinking, Johnny, when we were listening back to it, was I wonder. I mean, some people are fortunate enough to have cellars which are under the ground in their houses if they live in a nice Victorian house, which neither of us do. But if you've got one of them, obviously that's probably a great environment because it stays cooler year round. But I wonder, could you dig a hole in your garden, and would that make it cooler in the summer and a bit warmer in the winter? Because the ground stays. It stays more consistent, doesn't it, in heat?
Bradley, if you were a middle-aged man, you almost are. What I mean is a man from the Middle Ages. You would do well because that is a historically used technique.
Way!
So they would use terracotta pots, which the beer would be fermenting in, and they would put them in the ground for a more consistent and lower temperature. It's also worth noting that, as mad as it sounds, just putting your beer outside, that is how, a huge amount of beers would have been fermented. If they were clever and if they had the availability, they'd have been aging their particularly lagers in caves. So that's why there's so much sort of lager brewing near the Alps. So in Bavaria and Czech Republic and northern Italy and places like this, because they had the cellars that they could put the caves that they could put the beer in, and there would be a consistent, very low temperature there. And that's why bottom fermented beers, lager beers that need to be fermented at lower temperatures, sort of thrived in that area of Europe. So Joseph isn't mad by thinking I could put it outside. The issue I see, and it's not wiggly worms or wild bacteria getting in, I'm sure there's going to be a lid on it. The issue is that lager really, at 12 degrees it will be very happy, but if you have a warm spell, you can very quickly create some off flavours. So really, while keeping it cold is very, very important, what's also incredibly important is consistent temperatures. And because lager takes a much longer time to ferment out, so it might be, maybe 3 weeks to get to what's going to be roughly terminal gravity, and then another 3 weeks to lager to round out to remove those less exciting or rather less preferable flavors. Keeping it at that temperature for 6 weeks is a tough ask outside. So there's a couple of things that I would suggest. One is if you do have a shed or something where the temperature might be a little bit more consistent, that would be a good place to put it. Or if you can, I'd wrap it up really well. You'll have seen in some of our homebrew videos that I wrap my buckets in sort of bubble foil wrap, which is used, on the insides of the delivery bikes and stuff to just try and maintain temperature a little bit more. And you should find that will help maintain temperature a little bit.
Like a reflective heat barrier that just stops heat transferring either way. So it'll keep it more consistent.
Reflective material, and you've got the bubble wrap, which is a bit of insulation. So that might try and improve it. What I would say is basically, without really good temperature control, you're going to struggle to get a really good lager. However, there's also a really nice seasonality kind of sense of place terroir thing going on in that, it might be nice if your beer comes out with, some other flavours that are completely unique to that batch. And I know that lots of Belgian breweries, when they're making blonde ales, sort of rely on that. They rely on the change of temperature with the season. They don't temperature control their fermentations because they like that seasonal variation. it's an interesting one. Lager, although we feel like we should be brewing lager in winter because it'll be colder, actually you might be better off using some yeast that can tolerate some pretty low temperatures. Some ale yeast that can do it. Like you might be better off brewing a Kolsch perhaps, which might be able to cope with some slightly lower temperatures. But not as low as you'd want it and not as consistent as you'd want it to make a great lager. So yeah, my advice is wrap it up good in some insulation, stick it outside, and maybe aim for a Kolsch rather than a Helles or a Pilsner.
Yeah, because you're still going to get that lagery kind of vibes with a Kolsch. So that's actually a really nice solution, I reckon.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So yeah, I hope that's helped you, Joseph. Please do let us know how it goes down. If you've got other questions, send them in. Or even if it's not a question, just let us know how it tastes. Send us a little recording of that. And if anybody disagrees vehemently with what we've said, record it on your laptop and send it in, and we'll give you your time to shine and tell us we are absolute morons. Right, well, we've run out of time for today. We do have a video coming next week. I've already announced what it is via the medium of any guesses by showing a picture, but we are headed to Thornbridge. So we've got a feature all about one of the best breweries in the UK coming up, and lots of slightly surly northerners saying that any Muppet can make IPA, which is lots of fun. So yeah, that'll be live on Wednesday, and we'll be back with another Friday 5 p.m. on Friday. We're also starting to plan an Oktoberfest live show. We don't have a date yet, and we don't have a beer list confirmed, but do watch our social media because that'll be going on sale in probably just over a week, I'd imagine, and we'll confirm the date then. So that's what's happening in Craft Beer Channel land. Anything to add, Bradders?
Only that I love you and I love everybody out there, and it's great to be back.
It's great to be back, and we will see you back here on Wednesday. The Bubble Podcast is brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer Channel. Head to youtube.com/the Craft Beer Channel to watch this week's video and over 400 more exciting episodes. If you love what we do, please do subscribe and even join our Patreon at patreon.com/craftbeerchannel. Love and beer.